We have breaking news. The White House exasperated with the EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt after scathing reports on multiple fronts. Among them, CNN is learning his unprecedented 24/7 security detail has gone with him on personal trips, including a trip to the Rose Bowl, including a family vacation to Disneyland. And according to Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, that is why we have learned this. Now, Pruitt also is under scrutiny for renting a D.C. apartment owned by the wife of an energy lobbyist. He got a pretty sweet deal on that apartment, only $50 a night. That's according to ABC News. Could Pruitt maybe be the next to go? One source at the EPA telling CNN Pruitt's goose is cooked. Just yesterday, CNN asked the White House if shakeups were done, and the ominous answer was, "I'll have to get back to you." Renee Marsh is out front.
2 days after firing one cabinet secretary, the White House is growing increasingly frustrated with another cabinet member, sources tell CNN. The focus now on EPA Administrator Scott Pruitt following two damning stories in less than a day. First, CNN reporting that Pruitt went to the Rose Bowl, the college football semifinal featuring his home team, the Oklahoma Sooners.
The best game in college football all year long.
Then took his family to Disneyland, both personal trips with his EPA security detail in tow. Pruitt also used that security for trips home to Tulsa, Oklahoma. All that according to Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, after the Democrat said he viewed documents that back up the claim. Whitehouse has been a fierce critic of Pruitt since his nomination to the EPA.
This god-awful nominee, clearly this is an epic ram job.
Senator Whitehouse recently sent a letter to the EPA's Inspector General laying out the new details about Pruitt's round-the-clock security detail. The letter, which CNN reviewed, raises questions about the cost of Pruitt's unprecedented EPA-funded security.
Let him go on vacation. If he wants to go to Disneyland, put on a baseball cap and some sunglasses. Nobody knows who he is. He's not that famous.
The EPA tells CNN because of the unprecedented number of threats, Administrator Pruitt follows the same security protocol whether he's in his personal or official capacity. Pruitt is also facing scrutiny over the condo he lived in when he moved to Washington. ABC News first reported that Pruitt has been renting a condo at this Capitol Hill property, which CNN confirms is owned by the wife of a prominent energy lobbyist, whose firm represents a long list of companies that are regulated by the EPA. Bloomberg News reports that Pruitt's arrangement allowed him to only pay $50 for the nights he actually slept there, for a total of $6,100 over 6 months, well below market value.
It appears to be an impermissible gift, and here's why it matters. Because the owner of this condo is married to a lobbyist who seemingly has business through his firm, the lobbying firm, important client interests at the EPA.
Well, Brianna, I should point out that the EPA does have an ethics council to consult with situations like this. I spoke with an EPA official with direct knowledge of the situation who says this was not an ethics issue. The condo was not considered a gift because Pruitt paid the value for it in the form of rent. The source added that the landlord was a friend of Pruitt's and that the law, quote, does not ban federal employees from receiving a gift. But we spoke with several ethics experts who disagree with that line of thinking, especially considering that Pruitt paid below market value for the condo. I do want to point out, Brianna, that we reached out to the EPA multiple times today for an explanation about Pruitt's living arrangements, but the agency did not respond.
All right, Renee Marsh, thank you. Out front now, Democratic Congressman Don Beyer, who is one of the first members of Congress to officially call for Pruitt's resignation. He is the vice-ranking member on the Science, Space, and Technology Committee. Sir, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thank you, Brianna.
I want to play devil's advocate a little bit here because the EPA says that Pruitt has been threatened and that he needs this security, that his security needs related to his job don't stop just because he's not on the job at a given moment. What do you say to that?
Except I look at all the other cabinet secretaries, secretaries of state, people like that, and no one has had this kind of security now or before. I look at 535 members of Congress, and we have the armed guards and all the magnetometers, but everyone goes home unsecured every night or every weekend. It's really unprecedented to spend more than $2 million on the security. Not only that, to do it to the Rose Bowl or to Disneyland, places where no one knows who he is.
So, and on this issue of renting an apartment from an energy lobbyist's wife, you heard what the EPA is saying. A spokesman said that Administrator Scott Pruitt's housing arrangement for both himself and family was not a gift, and the lease was consistent with federal ethics regulations. Why not let an investigation take its course before calling for his head?
Well, this whole notion is so different from any ethics thing that I've ever heard. When you get essentially that the neighboring condo next door is renting for $5,000 a month. If he stayed there all 30 days a month, it'd only be $1,500. It was a massive gift to him, and basically from a couple that are energy lobbyists that have business before him. Members of Congress, I think we have a $15 limit on gifts we can accept. So we see politicians through the years get in trouble over taking things that don't match up with what people in the average public can get. It's the whole notion of, really getting beneficial treatment because you're a public office holder. This is not the kind of deal they do with anybody else.
There are also questions, of course, about Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke. He's come under fire for his use of private planes, for a security detail, for a non-government trip to Europe, and also most recently replacing 6 historical doors in his office to the tune of $139,000. Zinke, of course, says he's gotten that figure down to a paltry, I guess you could say, or not, $75,000. Do you think he should go too?
Well, I want to focus on Pruitt for the minute because, Zinke's made the argument that historical requirements require those expensive doors, but nothing required Pruitt to give a non-bid contract of $120,000 to a PR firm to investigate the emails and the Facebook postings of EPA employees. And nothing required him to do $43,000 for a secret phone booth in his office when there's the same skiff that you use for confidential conversations on a different floor of the EPA. His misuse of taxpayer dollars over and over again is really what's concerning. And that's why I think he should resign. If he doesn't resign, the president should fire him. And Brianna, the really big picture, though, we look at these individual instances of ethical violations. But the real concern is that he's fought the Clean Air Act, he's fought the Clean Water Act, he's put more arsenic and mercury and carbon dioxide into our atmosphere. You have 6 former EPA administrators, Democratic and Republican, saying that this guy doesn't even understand what the mission of the EPA is.
Congressman Beyer, thank you so much for being out front with us tonight.
Thank you, Brianna.